In previous sessions like this, we have approached in various ways the teaching at the heart of non-duality, that if we inquire deeply enough, we will discover that our true nature, our real self, is not in essence different from the Supreme Being, the ultimate reality of all. This identity is the basis of the non-dual meditations, and it is what makes possible the direct experience of reality called enlightenment, which is the fulfillment of our deepest longings. I think it would be helpful for us to focus and reflect further on this together before coming to our meditation practices today. When we first consider such ideas, we notice not identity, but seemingly unbreachable differences between the individual and the whole. Our human condition, our most pressing hopes and anxieties spring from the apparent certainty that we've been born at a particular time and place and will one day pass away. So, the suggestion that the individual and the universal are ultimately not different in nature is a direct challenge to our conventional ways of seeing. How are we to understand this rightly? Can there be anything in common between the individual and the universal? First, let's examine our conception of the great truth, the universal reality, the ultimate goal of all our seeking. This is what has been called the Absolute, the Transcendental, Supreme Being, God. In the non-dual philosophy, it's referred to by the Sanskrit name Brahman. We immediately encounter a challenge here, because what these words indicate is entirely beyond the finite forms that our mind can think of or imagine. When we try to think of the Absolute, we inevitably approach it through what we can relate to, which is our own lives and the world we see around us. And so, we conceive of the Supreme Reality as the ultimate source, arbiter, and sustainer of all phenomena. Whether our outlook is colored by religion, philosophy, or science, our conception of ultimate reality involves its preeminence in relation to the known universe. This may arouse a sense of reverence, even awe, for the supreme power behind the world appearance, which is entirely appropriate, and is one reason why the teaching on identity has to be rightly understood. And yet, we need to remember that any idea of the Supreme Being that is based on its apparent relation to the world we experience is far from the absolute reality, which has no relation to anything finite, being the infinite all. How could there be anything else that it would relate to? It's true that the world as we know it is full of separations and boundaries and gaps. But these divisions belong to our mental apparatus, not to reality itself. So, when we think of the Supreme Being as the creator and sustainer of the world, we project onto it much limitation, which in fact arises in our imperfect vision. Is there anything that can be rightly conceived about the Absolute, God, Brahman? It may be said, with due care, that Brahman is being, consciousness, bliss. When everything that is contingent and limited is put aside, what remains is pure being, pure consciousness, pure bliss. To be clear, these are not qualities or adjectives that apply to Brahman and could be separated, like the sun and its radiance, which will eventually fade. Brahman is absolute. Being and absolute being is Brahman. So Brahman is absolute being, and absolute being is Brahman. Absolute consciousness and absolute bliss mean the same. What's the value and significance of these for us now? Is it just abstract philosophy? Is it the exalted but far distant goal of transcendental inquiry? Friends, in truth, nothing could be closer or more immediately relevant to us than existence, consciousness, bliss, rightly understood. We found that our conception of the Supreme Being included elements that had been imposed by our habits of thought. Now let us ask if there is anything out of place in our understanding of ourselves, of our own nature. Is there? The initial and conventional view is that ourself means the one who acts and who experiences the outcome of those actions and the flow of events in the world. Myself, on this view, is the individual who depends on some things, is indifferent to others, who hopes, fears, tries, suffers, and rejoices. But does this way of thinking about ourselves get to the heart of the matter? Does it? Does it distinguish what is truly ourself from everything else? When, for example, we hope or fear, we conceive, do we not, of something or someone, together with feelings of attraction or aversion regarding that object. And when we are active, we are aware of events in the world in which our words and movements participate. So our wants, anxieties, efforts, and so on incorporate objects external to us, which exist and change in ways that have no relation to ourselves. In order then to truly apprehend ourselves, we have to precisely distinguish self from even our most intimate cares and deliberate actions. If we persist with this inner inquiry, what remains when all that is not self has been left aside? There we discover in and as our own being that which can never be negated, which is self-revealed, which cannot be divided. To put that positively, we find pure being, pure consciousness, and the total absence of suffering, bliss. Brahman, the ultimate reality, and our true self, which is called in Sanskrit Atman, are the final goal of all our seeking. When we inquire into both, under the light of right guidance, and discern everything that is not essential and in truth belongs to the world of appearances, we find that Brahman and Atman are identical as being, consciousness, bliss. During a previous session, we reflected on the guiding principle that the highest truth does not change. Anything that changes teaches us to pass on to our real goal. Now we can further refine this vital insight. When we leave aside all the changes, our meditations and inquiries will pass on from forms that exist to existence, from conscious beings to consciousness, from finitude to bliss. This is the way to Atman realization. We might ask, if the focus of our inquiry is exclusively Atman Brahman, being, consciousness, bliss, then where does this leave the world, the plane of nature and our lives? Is all this to be dismissed as irrelevant or insignificant? No, to say so would be a misunderstanding. In fact, the non-dual perspective leaves the phenomenal world exactly where it seems to be. What we all call common sense tells us that the world presses upon us, that appearances are often misleading, and that we have to cope with life as best we can. Scientific investigation reveals that some aspects of nature are predictable and controllable, some are not, and that appearances are very different from what underlies them. The non-dual perspective does not contradict common sense or the results of scientific investigation. In fact, non-dual practice helps us to develop the inner resources needed to follow both common sense and empirical investigations consistently. Non-duality, in theory and in fact, simply distinguishes clearly between the reality status of the world as it appears in our experience and the ultimate infinite truth. It presents the possibility of complete fulfillment through true knowledge of self as being, consciousness, bliss. The knowledge of the identity of Atman and Brahman and the truth about their apparent relation to appearances is unlike any other kind of knowledge. Here there is no distinction between the knower and the known. That is why the liberating, direct knowledge of reality is possible and, in a vital sense, is always true. Another question may arise, because this inquiry into our own nature distinguishes so acutely between self and not self. Could it make us cold, isolated, and uncaring towards people and the world around us? It's true that this path of self-discovery does strengthen our psychological independence, and it helps us to discern what really is our own responsibility from what misplaced social conventions may seem to impose upon us. But all this makes us more, not less, genuinely caring and empathetic. The precious quality we call human sensitivity arises precisely because all minds are lit by the one eternal consciousness. You are that infinite consciousness. As we progress on the path and increasingly discern what is essential to our being from what is derivative and changeable, our compassion and sense of oneness will heighten correspondingly. And when the bliss of true self-realization dawns, the light within is revealed as the light which lights the way and the goal for all humanity.